Hi, my name is Martin Purnell, and welcome to Off-Grid Christianity, a weekly podcast for those who go or don't go to church and where we can meet and hear from those that have made their faith count. This podcast series is to encourage via conversation, and you can contact us as well by email, ogc@accessradio.biz. That's ogc@accessradio.biz. And if you want to contact us by the website, you can as well, offgridchristianity.co.uk. And please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. It really means a lot. Thank you. So, who is today's guest? Well, she's an author, and an award-winning author at that, an editor, and has been part of the publishing industry in the UK for several years. Our guest was also a retreat house chaplain and loves the subjects of spiritual direction and companionship. Our guest became a Christian when she was 25, having seen her life fall apart. A few years later, she was diagnosed with Meniere's disease, which affects balance and hearing. And together with agoraphobia, she was unable to work. So, what is Meniere's disease? Have I pronounced it correctly? Why does she write A Little Book of Rest, focusing on fear? What exactly does a retreat house chaplain do? What exactly does her freelance editor role mean? And what's it like to tell someone their submission might need a major overhaul? Being a bit polite here. Why does she write an Advent book regarding one of the greatest Christmas films of all time, namely Miracle on 34th Street? And please tell me the original is the best. And what has she learnt about God and herself and her life to date? All these questions gives me great pleasure to welcome Sheila Jacobs. Sheila, thank you so much for joining us today. For those that don't know anything about you, we'll find out in a minute, obviously. But where are we speaking to you from today, please?
I'm in Houston, which is North Essex, sort of on the Suffolk border.
If you're in Essex, you said north and not north with two Fs. I get the feeling you might not actually be from Essex, so we'll find out later on where you are actually from, if that's right. I could be wrong.
No, you're not wrong.
Well, let's go for it then. 5 questions that maybe or may not be interesting. Let's see how we get on. Question number 1, please, Sheila. If you could invite anybody from history for an evening meal, alive or dead, so that you could ask them questions, who would it be?
This really got me. I didn't know what to say because there are so many people. Where do you start? So I have to say someone like Smith Wigglesworth so he could pray for me.
That's a very good answer, actually.
It's having even a prayer.
Yeah. Well, why did you choose him then?
I think he was very powerful. You hear some things about him that are kind of questionable, but as an Elim person, I suppose, he's quite well known to many of us. And I think he saw a lot of miracles. I'd just like to sit down with him and say, can you just pray for me, please?
Yeah.
Okay, and I have a list, and ask him, how he got to being such a man of faith. And, he had exceptional experiences. It's an interesting guy, I think.
And the thing about Smith Wigglesworth is that, he died, quite a few years ago now.
Yeah.
I think his life was around about the 1920s, 1930s, wasn't it? Something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
So consequently, if there were scandals, false information, we would have found that by now.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened, so that must be good.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
The thing I remember most about Smith Wigglesworth, wasn't it he was able to raise people from the dead?
I think it was that. I think the story that I heard, which was interesting, was I think he had a nasty experience where I think it was Satan turned up and he just went, oh, it's you, and turned over and went back to sleep. I think that is so cool.
Very good answer. And he couldn't read, could he? Is that right?
I only know a little bit about him, but
yeah.
I know he was a powerful man of God. And obviously powerful men of God are not perfect, but it's still somebody that you'd quite like to share a lasagna with and say, okay, quickly eat that. I just need you to pray for me. And I've got a list of my friends here who also need prayer and they're all at the door. Do you know what I mean? So.
Well, I'm glad you said lasagna because I was going to ask, what would you cook him?
Oh, well, we get a takeaway. Come on. I could spend all that time cooking. Or he could bring his own sandwiches. I'm not the greatest cook.
Question 2. Who is your favourite biblical character or favourite biblical story or favourite parable, please, Sheila?
Oh, again, that's really hard. But I'd have to say my favourite biblical character would be Jonathan, David's friend.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope he lives next door to me in glory. I really like the sound of this fella. He's full of integrity. I liked him a lot, yeah.
Tell me more. Why you choose him?
Because he was loyal to David, his friend, but he was also loyal to his father. He walked a line. I mean, he was going to be the king of Israel, wasn't he? But he said to David, look, I know you're the one who's chosen. So he gave that up and he gave it over to David. He was a man of integrity. And then he died with his father in battle, even though he must have known his father was really on the wrong side. But he was a man of loyalty, a great friend, but also a great son. And I think he put other people first. And I think that we don't talk about him enough. I think he showed Jesus. I think he's a type of Christ. So it's just awesome.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. The fact that he was best mates, besties, as they say, with Dave.
Yeah.
But his dad, he knew that that was his father.
Yeah.
So he wanted that father-son relationship as well. And he had, as you say, walked the fine line.
Yeah, absolutely. He did. And it was like he seemed to, although nobody's perfect, he didn't seem to put a foot wrong with either of them, really, because he honoured his father, but he also honoured his friend. And he wouldn't join David, even though he could clearly have done that. He didn't turn his back on his father, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
Because he must have known he was on a slide down. Very interesting, but also giving up the fact that he could have been he should have been the next king of Israel, and saying, okay, David, I know that's really your role, and actually putting God first and saying, that's not for me. That's actually, God wants you to do that. That's really humble, really humble.
If I was able to get him to my time machine and go back all those thousands of years to bring Jonathan back, not Dave, but Jonathan back.
Yeah, I'd be wary of David, I think, but Jonathan, yeah, okay.
Yes, you'd have to hide all those tambourines for a start.
Really would. I must do that sometime as well, yeah.
So I was going to say, what would you cook him? But I've got a funny feeling for Jonathan, you'd most probably get in a takeaway.
Yes, probably, yeah. Or say, can you bring the sandwiches? Exactly.
Yeah, but he wouldn't know what a sandwich was, would he? That's the thing.
Well, you could Google it, you know.
Yeah, that'd be interesting, wouldn't it? This is a tablet. Well, what do I do with it? Well, you touch it. Yeah, but maybe not. Question 3. If you were Prime Minister for the day and could change any law or impose a new law, what would it be, please, Sheila?
Well, I really think that we should stop hunting wombles. That really is so bad. And I think that needs to stop.
Hunting wombles?
Yeah.
I did not know that was a thing.
Well, it is now.
It is. I can see a white van turning up outside. Is it?
Well, yeah, that turns up quite frequently. Actually, to be honest with you, I had a poll with some of my friends today about this question and about other questions as well. And one of my friends in particular has got a clear thing about wombles. And so I thought, yeah.
Well, tell us more what the clear thinking is about wombles then, just in case Elizabeth Berriford's lawyers are listening.
Well, we have a group of people, a group of friends, and we're involved with street evangelism and cafe church outreach, stuff like that. I think we get on really well because it's all very lighthearted and silly. And one of my friends is well into the Smurfs and wombles and stuff like this. And so we just have ridiculous conversations after doing evangelism in the pub, talking about wombles. And people probably think we're interesting people, let's just say.
Could never get into the Smurfs.
Neither could I.
No, I didn't like them. Whereas the wombles, it was Elizabeth Berriford that wrote the books, wasn't it?
I can't remember. I would say it's before my time, but that'd be a complete lie.
I'm pretty sure she was married to the chap who used to do the tennis commentary on BBC in the 60s.
Oh, okay. Well, you know more than me, you see. You're probably a secret Womble fan, clearly.
Just remember, you're a Womble. That's all I can say.
Absolutely, yeah. Underground over there.
Cue Mike Bat.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Question 4, outside of family events, what has been your most enjoyable day out?
I also struggled with this because I've had so many enjoyable days out over the last year with friends. I could name you so many times when I've been to the seaside or I've been out on biking. A friend of mine had e-bikes, and so for the first time since I was 12, I went out e-biking. So, yeah, there are just so many times. But I was thinking about this last night, and one of the most exceptional times I've had over the last year, I would say, of days out would be when my friend Julie and I went off to a car show, these kind of vintage cars, whatnot. I love vintage cars, traction engines, stuff like that. And they had a low rider there, bouncy kind of car. It's the low rider, the kind of Mexican thing.
Yeah.
We kind of know the guy a bit because he comes past us when we're doing street evangelism and waves and bounces the car, which I'm pretty sure he shouldn't do. And so my friend was able to get into that and we bounced around in the low rider, and that was fun. Yeah, it was a fun day, but there are so many times I've had that are good with friends.
Well, every time you say low rider, I think of the classic war song.
That's right, yes.
Which I love. Great harmonica and bass line on it. Lovely.
Yeah.
Question 5. What has been your most embarrassing moment then, please, Sheila?
Probably falling off the e-bike. I fell off so many times. Yeah, I went biking with a friend, and I think we went biking for the best part of like 3 months. So it was ridiculous. Just locally, found out lots of things about places that I didn't know locally. But, the times I went sprawling, but one in particular went round a corner, flat on the ground, shouting out to my friend, I think I've broken my leg. my friend turned around and said, no, you haven't, just get back on the bike. So it was embarrassing, but there you go.
How did your friend know just by looking that you hadn't broken your leg?
Oh, I don't know, really. I think it was wishful thinking more than anything. I got back on, it was all right. So, yeah, it's like I say, I hadn't been biking since I was about 12, but it did me good, and it did my balance good as well. Having had the Meniere, I didn't think I'd ever go biking again or ride a horse, because I used to do a lot of horse riding. And it was amazing to be able to actually sit on a bike, to be fair.
That wasn't your Womble friend, by a chance, who went biking with you?
No.
Madame Sheila, wasn't her? Okay.
No, it wasn't Madame Sheila.
Talking of Meniere's disease then, what exactly is Meniere's disease, please, Sheila?
Well, initially they thought I had something called labyrinthitis, which is caused by a virus. But it's basically what happens is you go very dizzy. But when I say dizzy, I mean vertigo, where everything spins. And so effectively you lose your eyesight and you lose your hearing. All you can do is fall to the floor and vomit. That's it. I mean, it's horrendous. It is really horrible and it's life-limiting. And people have it much worse than I actually had it. When I say ruined my life, it changed the course of my life. I wouldn't say it ruined it, but it changed the course of my life. It was horrible. It's a horrible illness. I mean, all illnesses are horrible, but that was pretty awful. And I'm left with partial deafness and tinnitus. But having said that, I'm just so grateful that I'm okay now. I can't tell you, because when I go out for days with my friends, I never thought that I would ever go out ever again anywhere.
Yes.
So everything's a bonus to me now.
Yeah. So Meniere's disease then, how does it come about in the first place?
Well, they don't seem to know. I had a brain scan and they said, good news, Miss Jacobs. They said, you have a normal brain. I said, I'll tell people. Nobody will believe it. But they said there was a problem. I think it's behind your ear, but they can't tell exactly what the problem is, and unless they do an autopsy. And I said, I'm not that far gone.
No, not yet.
So, but they don't seem to know, to be honest, what happens. I think some of it can be caused by a virus, or maybe it's even stress related. I think if you have a weakness, maybe stress exacerbates the weakness. I really don't know. And I don't think anybody really comes up with an answer where it's, it's caused by this. Well, certainly not that I've heard. It's just one of those things.
So stress, eh?
Yes. I was certainly under a lot of stress at the time. So.
Okay, what kind of stress were you under?
Oh, quite a lot. Self-made in many ways. I was studying with London Bible College as it was at the time. Also working. I had some issues at home with my mum. Quite a lot of things were going on at the time. And I just put myself under too much pressure, I think. And I'm the kind of person, it's like, I'm like the Terminator. I just don't stop. I'm learning to be different, but I tend to go at everything in a really focused way and very driven. And I've learned to factor in rest into my life now. And at that time, I think I just wasn't resting enough, to be honest with you.
Do you know the number of guests that we've had on here that went to London Bible College?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Obviously was the place to be.
I did it by extension studies. So I was doing that as well as working full time.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so I was working graphic design at the time. So I was doing that and then coming home and immediately working, trying to get my diploma. It was very difficult. Yeah. A lot of stress.
Well, let's talk about that, because I think stress is unfortunately one of the illnesses that people don't really understand, that anyone can get it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I've been there myself and told by a doctor to take 6 weeks off immediately.
Wow.
So I tried to fly the flag for this horrible word, stress.
Yeah.
I don't know really how to describe it. So let me pass it over to you, because you're the eloquent one.
Oh, really?
He says,
okay.
It says here, you've written a book, which is more than me. So describe what stress is, first of all, and then we can take it on a journey on that, if that's okay.
Well, for me personally, I can only think what it is for me. It's when I get overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. Overwhelmed, probably taking on too much. And some of that clearly isn't stuff I should be doing. I put a lot of stress on myself in that I overthink, I overworry. Overthinking is a big problem of mine. If something happens to me, I can think about, what's going to happen next week, next year, for the next 5 years. And so I'm way too cautious in that. Also, I do everything or try to do everything very quickly and all at once. I think I'm fairly quick at a lot of things I do, but I didn't factor in rest. So I think you need downtimes. Otherwise, for me personally, I get very stressed out and it all becomes too much. And that's why I think to get away from the problem or the situation and take it easy and just try and look back at it, that works for me. But stress for me is being overwhelmed, yeah.
You were in graphic design.
Yeah.
What made you want to go to London Bible College, albeit through a correspondence course at the same time?
Jehovah's Witnesses.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I got saved when I was 25. I had a real revelation of who Jesus was. I met him, and it's like that. Oh, right. Okay. If that's all real. Okay. Jesus is real. Right. You better start thinking about going to church. Oh, drat. Don't really want to go to church. That's not my bag at all. But then about a year after that, the Jehovah's Witnesses came knocking at my door. And although I believed, I didn't really have a valid argument for why I believed.
Yes.
And they did wobble me. So I thought, I think I need to do some serious study about why I believe what I believe. And I only intended to do one course on the Gospel of John. Yeah, in the end, I didn't. I did much more than that. I did the first year of a degree. And I did that very quickly as well as working. So that was my fault. And currently, obviously I consequently got the Menieres, which I think was a big factor at that time. But yeah, the JWs, because they knew they haven't got the proper Bible, have they? They've got a version of it. And they came at me with stuff and I didn't know how to answer them. And I thought, yeah, I need to really think about why I believe what I believe. So that's what started me off with that.
In my time machine that I mentioned already,
Okay.
if I put you back into my time machine and took you back to that time when the JWs called,
Yeah.
and you start to think, all right, I'm going to do a correspondence course.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know now that you're going to get Menieres, something had to go.
Yeah.
What would you do differently?
I would say there is no rush. Take years over this. Enjoy it. Take time off. You don't have to do it at 6:00 every night. Spend time worshipping the Lord. Go out. Have fun, as well as just be so focused on this. Just chill out, basically. I think I would tell myself that nothing is worth the rush. There's time. Take it easy, which is a bit of my mantra nowadays. I think don't rush anything. Just let it be. Be still and know that I'm God. Spend more time in contemplation, which is my bag nowadays.
Yeah.
Just be kind of more chilled. There is no need to rush. The world won't fall apart. Just take it easy.
See, that's very interesting. This is back in my radio days. And he came on the show. Actually, I was doing a lunchtime show at the time. And he was telling me about his life and how he was at university in the 60s. And he was like yourself. And like I've been through, he was really struggling and he was in his final year and his final exams at university, I think were going to be in like the June time, whenever they are.
Yeah.
And around about March time, he was struggling big time. And he went to the doctor and his doctor was very forward thinking. And he basically said, you can't do any more. You are going to be under, severe mental stress. You need to trust me now. If you want to get through your university degree, if you want to survive, he said, you've got to now cut off everything.
Yeah.
Do not lift a pen. Do not write. He said, your brain is like a sponge. He said, you've absorbed all this information.
Wow.
He said, now what I want you to do is go away, do whatever you like. Just get out of London. Just do something. Stay away. Do not study. Do not do anything. Your brain will be like muscle memory. And when you come to do your exams, it will all squeeze out all the information, just like a sponge.
Yeah, okay.
And his name was Brian, I think. And did exactly what the doctor did tell him to do. He went off to wherever he lived with his family and went fishing every day for 3 months. Just took a complete break, trusted the doctor. Come the exams, he looked at the paper and all the information was still in his brain and was squeezed out and he passed.
Wow, there you go. Yeah.
And that was in the 60s. It's quite amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. I think we just put too much stress on ourselves.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I've got to do it. I've got to do it. I've got to get it done now. I certainly was like that. But I'm aware of myself more now as I'm older. I know where a lot of my faults and failings lie. I could go back in your time machine. I certainly would sit myself down, but I don't think I'd listen to me at all. I wouldn't.
Why wouldn't you listen to yourself?
I know what I was like back then, so I wouldn't listen. Pointless, youth is wasted on the young. So.
My issue was also that I wanted to please everybody,
right,
including some bosses who obviously didn't like me.
Oh, okay.
So you're trying to do extra stuff to impress,
right,
the workload and everything else.
Yeah.
Something had to go. Meniere's disease then. How do you cope now with it?
My mum got dementia. I actually got better physically. They put me on something that helps the blood flow to my inner ear. Actually, the physical problem wasn't so bad, but it brought in a lot of fear. I was absolutely terrified to go out. I was living with my mother. That wasn't my life plan at all, living with my mum. And I got to the point where I couldn't even walk down my path or I couldn't go out. About the only thing I could do in the end was walk my dog. I found it very hard. I couldn't go to church. I had such a load of fear in those days and anxiety. And then my mum started to be ill. I actually got better, physically better, started work as an editor from home. And then I noticed there was something wrong with my mum, and they were saying, oh, she's developed epilepsy. But it wasn't actually. It was TIAs were causing the epilepsy, but that wasn't diagnosed at the time. And she got dementia.
So what's TIA?
Don't ask me for the actual thing, but it's small strokes.
Right.
And of course, I didn't know what was going on. There was just me and my mum, and it was very difficult. And I started to get quite a lot of anxiety about that because I still had the agoraphobia. And somebody, I don't know how I managed to get to church, but somebody actually said to me, "You've got a spirit of fear, Sheila." I said, "No, I haven't. Don't be ridiculous." I couldn't even sit on a seat without having a panic attack, And I got some very powerful prayer ministry. And I got released from fear. And shortly after that, I was able to go to London. I went down to Premier because I was interviewed in Premier. And I went to see my dad, who lived the other side of Cambridge. Couldn't have done that. And I went to Luton and gave my testimony. And the funny thing was I went to Luton and I was so excited because I've been nowhere for like 15 years. Basically, I had the agoraphobia and the illness 15 years. I went to this church in Luton and I turned up, so I was giving my testimony, and I said, "Luton is wonderful." And they said, "Don't think we've ever heard anybody describe Luton like that." But I thought, it's great. I'm here. I'm just happy.
Yeah, those are my old haunts, Luton. I know very well from my youth.
Wonderful church. Very welcoming.
Which church was that?
I couldn't tell you the name of the church. Bookshop downstairs. I remember that. But it was absolutely wonderful. It was about 15, 17 years ago now, so I don't remember.
Growing up, before moving back down to Bristol, I grew up just outside Luton.
Oh.
And so every Saturday, I'd go and watch Luton Town play football.
Oh, well.
Okay. Had to do it. And of course, my all-time football hero, John Aston, was on the wing.
Oh.
Just an amazing wing. I tried to emulate his skills on the wing when I played football.
Yeah,
yeah, not quite. But anyway, the captain was Alan West. And Alan West became a Pentecostal minister in a church in Luton. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was wondering if it was that church. That's why I was asking.
I know they made the most wonderful samosas, and I'd never had one before, and it was wonderful. Absolutely amazing.
Great. I like that. That's my kind of language.
Because I'm a total foodie, that's the problem.
You scale all the churches you speak in by the scone making and stuff.
Absolutely. What
I'll
else?
come back here again. Well, it's good that you had your agoraphobia as well.
Yeah.
And people think agoraphobia means that you're actually scared of just going outside, but it's actually confined spaces as well, isn't it?
Well, for me, I say agoraphobia. When I was poorly, I really couldn't go down the path. I couldn't drive my car. I was too scared to sit I couldn't sit on a seat at church because I'd have a panic attack. I couldn't go into a shop. It got to really, really bad. I mean, I never thought I'd see the seaside ever again. That's why recently I went to Clacton actually with a friend and paddled, and it was just amazing.
Wow.
So I never thought I'd do anything like that again. So, it's so life limiting. But funnily enough, I could walk over the fields with my dog, but I didn't want people around. It was just all anxiety, really. So it was horrible. But thankfully, I'm okay now.
The great thing about this is that with your experiences that you've already shared, you eventually became a retreat house chaplain.
Yeah.
Tell me what a retreat house chaplain does and what you've been able to use your skills in.
Well, like with everything else, I shouldn't really have been there. So I wanted to do a spiritual direction course because I'm an Elim Pentecostal person, but this was an Anglican course, and I really wanted to train to be a spiritual director. But because of my work, because I'm a full-time editor and writer, and I'm freelance, I couldn't find the time to do this course. So I went to the retreat house manager, or I think he was the head chaplain at the time, he's a manager now. And I said to him, I really want to be involved in this retreat house. I feel called here, but I can't do this course. So I'd like to be a chaplain here. And he said, well, you're not ordained. You're not a counsellor or anything. Give me your testimony. So I gave him my testimony. He said, when can you start? So I did that for about 5 years. And it was on a Saturday. I did a little bit of chaplaincy because there were lots of day chaplains. I finished that a few years ago. But I loved it. And it was basically sitting and listening to people who came in with their problems and just really relying on the Holy Spirit to just be a sounding board. But funnily enough, now I'm actually training to be a spiritual director, so spiritual companion. So I found as I started to lead retreats in retreat houses, it's quite useful to have that behind you. But I loved the chaplaincy, absolutely loved it. Just really just listening to people.
So what exactly does a spiritual chaplain do then once you've got your diploma?
Well, a spiritual director, it's
They
call it spiritual companion, spiritual director. I don't know if you actually get a diploma. I think you get a letter saying you've done the course, which is nice.
Yeah.
I think it just means that you, within the Anglican Church, I think although they are now, I think, doing it with other denominations as well, it just means that you've had some training to really listen, to intentionally listen to people who when you sit with somebody, I think at times we can all do this where we want them to shut up so we can get in, and say our bit. But this is learning how to intentionally listen. So you're just focused on that person and also listening to God as well. What is God saying here? And just taking it back and being still and listening to the Lord and listening to the person and just being focused on that individual. I think it's good training to have for anybody who's in that kind of listening area. And with my own work, I can see it's helped me already. I lead retreats and whatnot, but it is actually teaching me more what's my stuff, put my stuff aside and listen to what's going on here, if that makes sense.
No, it does indeed. But the thing is, leaving all the things that you've been through to one side, actually, that is a very good rock for you to help other people out.
Absolutely.
For those that are listening today that maybe don't understand stress or are going through it themselves, what have you learnt through that process that's been able to help others, for instance?
Well, I think I can't say I know how you feel because everybody's life journey is different, isn't it?
Yeah.
And rather than, I think, me jumping in and saying, oh, this happened to me, I think it's coming alongside and knowing it's like the Emmaus Road, isn't it? That Jesus certainly sorted out stuff for me. I can't say that my life is exactly as I would have wanted it. It certainly is how he wants it. My problem is being obedient to him, which I still struggle with a lot. But I think it's just saying to people, okay, I hear you. God's in it, and it's all this God's in it, and how he works it out is how he'll work it out. But, don't be afraid to think that he's actually here and he is walking with you. And just to maybe sort of help them to listen to him for themselves and to realise he's not there beating them up with a big stick. He's actually on their side. He's there. He's in their life with them. He just wants them to turn to him. The whole Revelation 3:20 thing, I'm standing at the door and knocking, and he wants to come in and eat with you. He wants to share your life. And I found that that's what's happened to me. I know that Jesus is sharing my life with me and walking with me. That's where it all goes, really. Just kind of trying to listen to people and say, well, trust Jesus, deepen your relationship with him because he's got the answers. Well, I haven't. But I can give you a testimony of how he's worked in my life. This is what he's done for me. If he's done it for me, he can do it for you, basically. He's real,
Because even today on the news, it's about a terrible, tragic story about mental health.
Really?
How it can go really, really wrong. And of course, your age and my age, we go back to the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
It was only like late 1980s when we stopped laughing at the Americans who for decades have been talking about they go to their therapist.
Yes.
And if we ever said that in the 70s, we'd be sneered at and laughed at.
Totally.
Whereas now it's slightly changing.
Yeah.
If people come to you and say, look, I've got a mental health issue or I've got a mental health problem, I think, what would you do?
Well, it depends what the problem was. But if it's around anxiety, I would just say, be still and know that I am God. Not me. Obviously, Jesus.
Thank you. Thank you for qualifying that. That helps.
Sounded terrible, didn't it? I could start a cult here.
A Womble cult. That would go down well, wouldn't it?
The cult of Womble, yeah. I think I know somebody who might join that. Anyway.
Yeah, you do.
The whole thing is about listening more to God, just being in that position of listening to him. Yeah, that's the answer to me, is just spending time with Jesus and putting that time aside. And even if it's just 5 minutes a day, rather than coming to him and saying, oh, look, everything's really bad. It's like he says, I know, but I'm in it with you. And once you know he's there, and for me, it was a long process because I can remember sitting in front of my fire thinking, all I wanted to do is work for you, Jesus. And him saying, I don't want you to work for me. I want to do my work in and through you. And I'm not saying the illness was from God, because I don't think God, I don't believe that he would do that to you, kind of thing. But life is tricky. Life is difficult. Life's not perfect, but he does use things in your life. And often that's to help other people too. I think, if I hadn't have been through it, was not my choice to have gone through what I've been through, with my mum having dementia and everything else and the illness and stuff. But I know that my testimony means that I can say to other people, yeah, I've been through this and I know he's faithful. I haven't always been faithful to him, but I know he's real and I know he's faithful. So I suppose that's where I'm going with all this.
You mentioned the word listen. Listen to God.
Yeah.
Listen to Jesus.
Yeah.
Very easy to say.
Yeah.
But as I can testify,
yeah,
very difficult to do.
Absolutely.
Why do we find it so difficult to do that? And what did you do in your case?
I often think that when life gets really tough, that's where you really seek out God. You really, really do, don't you? Otherwise it's like, okay, God, see you later. I've scheduled you in for 7:00. Oh, sorry, the High Chaparral reruns are on. I'm going to watch that instead, I do. But I think if you can just say, okay, I'm going to put like 5 minutes, 10 minutes aside just to listen, just to read a bit of the word, maybe a psalm, something like that, and just to listen and just to get into that stillness. But also there's a place for pouring your heart out to him, but there isn't this place for listening. I think, if you're on a phone to a friend, if you just talk to them all the time, then say ta-ta and put the phone down, that's not a two-way kind of relationship. That's just pouring your heart out to a friend, and that friendship won't last or won't grow. So I think there's got to be that area of listening to what God's saying to you. And I had a thing happen to me recently where I wasn't happy at all with what God said to me about doing something, but I knew I'd heard from him. So I ignored him like you do, and still prayed, well, he might change his mind, but he tends not to. But I think it's that, isn't it? It's just getting to know him and then trusting him in that. But that's, I think it's the key to everything, is to know Jesus and to trust him. Yeah, everything.
When you were going through your really sad part of the Meniere's disease and your agoraphobia,
yeah,
and you were obviously not being able to talk to anybody, so the only person you could talk to was Jesus and say, look, help me out here. Eventually, most probably, would have been me after about a few minutes. All right, help me out. I give up.
that's sort of it, yeah. Help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you remember of that time yourself?
The thing I remember the most was I knew I was in trouble. I knew I couldn't get out of it. I said, oh, you do all the stuff. Oh, please heal me. Now, I have had an amazing healing when I was in my 20s or something else, and it was immediate. This, not so much. And I couldn't understand it, and it made me question my faith. I would sink if it wasn't for him. I thought, I know he's real. I know he's true. I've met him. I'm going through this. I need him in it. But one of the things at the time, if you want me to remember a specific thing, was the thing I'd wanted most of all in all my life was to be a writer. Mm-hmm. I wanted to get a book published since I was about 8 or something ridiculous. I was sending manuscripts away when I was 13.
Wow.
And I knew that was an idol, and I'm pretty good at idolatry, to be honest. If there's a throne there, I can easily put something else on it, and that's something I have to watch. And I was walking my dog in the field, and I was feeling that Jesus was more close to me then than he is now. That's how I feel, because I knew I was totally dependent on him to get through the next day.
Yeah.
And I felt like he was saying, what about this? And I thought, yeah, okay, that's an idol. And my desire for writing, I just laid it down. I had perfect peace, absolutely perfect peace. At that time, I felt, if you remember, because you were roughly the same age as me, I guess, if you remember those little old toffee blocks, you had a little silver hammer and you could smash up the toffee with this silver hammer. Or that may be before your time, actually. I don't know. Anyway, so I remember those, and that's how I felt.
Oh, yeah, in the newsagent, it would all be a slab.
Right.
You wouldn't break it, they would, yes, yeah.
Yeah. And I felt like that. And I gave up everything. And I felt I don't want anything to be between me and Jesus. I don't want to be any further away from the Lord ever in my life than I am now. I remember thinking that. And he drew very close to me. But within 3 weeks, I had an opportunity to send away some sample chapters I had in a drawer to somebody who was asking for children's fiction. Within 6 months, my first book got accepted. Now, the funny thing was, nobody had ever asked to see further chapters, ever. When the letter came back, we'd like to see further chapters, I was in a pickle because I hadn't actually written the book. So I only had these sample chapters, and it was the last time I was ever going to send anything away. And that book got published. It was just amazing. So I knew that as soon as I gave that up, God bless me. And I think that's the thing I remember most from that time.
That's very interesting. In my case, it's very similar. Only ever since I was 3 years of age, all I ever wanted to do was being a radio presenter, radio DJ. I finally got an opportunity from a really good friend, and we started to do a classic rock show on a local BBC radio station. Soon afterwards, that's where my stress really kicked in, and I was signed off work.
Oh, okay.
And one thing led to another, and I knew that I had to give up the radio. And I remember sitting on the staircase, just saying to go, well, at least I've done something. I always want to work in radio, and I've done it now for the BBC.
Yeah.
And it was like reluctantly handing it to God, and that was it. And then within 6 months, I was in my car driving up to UCB in Stoke-on-Trent. And the rest is history, yeah. I
think there's this whole thing where God really wants to be first. And I think if we're basically saying, I don't trust you, I'm not letting go of this. I think he's saying, let go, put me first, trust me, even if you can't really see the way forward with that. And I think it's exceptionally hard to do, really hard. But when you do, he's not guaranteed he's going to give you that, but you never know. He just wants to be first, doesn't he? And I think that's something I've constantly struggled with other things. Okay, God, you're on the back burner for now. It's stupid. I mean, how many times have I got to learn that lesson, But interesting.
But for the people who, say, have got a really nice, extravagant lifestyle or whatever, we've talked about our private jets that we hope to be getting.
Oh, yeah, my Lamborghini, yeah.
Radio-controlled one, maybe. But all joking aside, for those that have got a really nice lifestyle, why do they need to listen to God?
Good point.
So what would you say?
Oh, dear. Okay. Well, I felt like I had everything in my 20s, but it went pretty quickly. I had a well-paid job. I had a fiancé. I was in a good place in my 20s, but I lost everything. When I got ill, in one reason and another, I lost everything. I lost my job. I felt God telling me to give up the relationship I had with a really lovely guy, the call to be single, which has cost me, to be honest with you. It really has. I think it's best to... God has got a good plan for you, and things don't last. You can lose it all, and ultimately we lose everything anyway. Nobody's going to take anything with them. I look at this life as a pilgrimage. It's a journey we're walking through. We look at this planet as this is it, but it's not. There's way more. So I think it's about looking in the long term. If God's true, he's true. It doesn't make any difference whether you've got loads of money or you haven't. If something's true, if God's real, he is. What are you going to do with that?
Very good point. Just a matter of interest, because you said that you, through many years, you lost your fiancé, you lost your job, which I take it was in graphic design.
Yeah.
You say you had a really nice lifestyle.
I did.
Whatever happened to your fiancé, do you know?
Yeah, bless him. Well, it was a bit of an on and off relationship we had, but he was a really, really nice guy. And I was... we were together quite a long time, but it just turned into like being friends in the end. But I had felt, and it wasn't his fault at all. He was an absolutely lovely guy. But I think for me, I knew more or less immediately as soon as I got saved, God was saying to me, I want you to be single. An unmarried woman cares for the things of the Lord. And I would say at that time, I believe he's happily married. I believe he went on and got married. But for me now, many years later, that is still something that I find was quite a sacrifice and still is, if you want the truth. I'm not sure whether God wants me to be single forever, but I know he wants me to be single now, for sure. That's been quite a journey, I would say, yeah. But on the other hand, Jesus gave up everything for me, didn't he? He died on the cross for me. So if he says, okay, Sheila, this is the plan I have for you, I think we tend to say, I know the plans I have for me, God, plans to prosper me and not to harm me. Can you just rubber stamp that for me?
Yeah, exactly.
And we forget, we come to him and we say, you died for me. I surrender. My life is yours now. So he says, okay, I've got a plan for you. Well, that may not be what I wanted my life to look like, but it is what he wanted it for. And, I'm his. So I may struggle with that, but it's a fact.
Thank you for sharing this. Can I go a bit deeper if that's all right?
Sure, go for it.
Sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, let's go for it then. Because the number of times I met people say, well, God told me to do this. And you just said, yes, but that doesn't mean forever and ever.
Yeah.
So the chances are, you never know, you might get married. You might be, this time next year, you might be happily married and he just gives you as a wedding present a Lamborghini. Okay, maybe not a Lamborghini.
I'll let you know if that happens.
But it's like, he didn't say never, ever get married. It's just like now.
Yeah, I certainly have that, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
with that in mind, what do you think has God used you for in those past years? Because I don't know, honestly, how old you are. Why do you think God told you not to get married? And what do you think has God used you for as a result of that?
I was thinking about this recently, actually, because of something that happened and I had to make a decision over something actually to do with a relationship. But I thought, you know what, if I had married or if I had married in the past, who knows in the future, like you say, I don't know, who knows, but I would have lost my edge. There's no way I would have been available for the friends that I've got that often, I would say need me, but they don't need me. But I can be available for friends. I can be available for people. I'm in a situation where I have an edge and quite a drive for my work, where I can write and I can take on things like speaking engagements, take on retreats, do singles retreats and do that with integrity, because there's a lot of people out there and a lot of people in my own circle who are single. And so I can be available for them. And so there's a lot of things that you are actually freed up to do, or I certainly feel I am, as opposed to putting a person first and saying, okay, there's a relationship there, that's marriage, because for me it would, marriage relationship where you have to put that person first under God. And I think the freedom, especially in the kind of life I live with the kind of things I do, it means I can be fully focused on the kingdom and kingdom stuff. Okay, there's a cost. I haven't had children. I haven't got a partner, but I have a lot of good friends that I find emotionally satisfying, So God's blessed me in that. But I think you can be much more available. And for me, as I said, I'd lose my edge on the focus of writing, of doing the stuff I'm doing, of the spiritual direction and anything else that God has in mind for me. I'm not saying he wouldn't bring someone along in the future and that the lives would blend in for his glory. And if that's what he wants, that's absolutely cool. But I've had to surrender that to say, whatever you want, God, however you can best use me for your kingdom. Because really that's what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's sharing him with other people and living for him.
I love your honesty.
Well, I am known for being honest.
Let's crack on then, because looking back again in these intervening years, like you say, if you get married, you have to put your marriage first.
Absolutely. Yes, you do. Yes.
That's the key thing, which has been a real cost to me, which I have to be honest, I still struggle with, because I thought 20 odd years ago, when I knew I had to give up my career in the radio, thinking, God, you called me here.
Yes.
You called me to move up from Bristol, my life, down there to Stoke-on-Trent, to give all that up for a very sick wife, an 18-month-old little baby boy.
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense. And I tried to balance both things. Couldn't be done. Yeah, for the past 20 odd years, more than that now. That's what I've been doing. I've been full-time carer to wife and bringing up a boy. But the issues whereby I still really struggle with what's happened, knowing that that's what God wanted me to do.
Yeah.
And turning it to you now, that's okay.
Yeah.
You've done something similar, albeit different, but similar, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where have there been times when you know that had you been married and you had to put your husband first, let's say, you wouldn't have been able to have done what you did that might have actually really blessed somebody? What comes to mind for you on that?
Well, to be honest, it's something that I've been thinking about more recently. And it became crystal clear to me that I wouldn't be free to do things that I know that God has called me to do, and mostly to give my time to other people, to be free to be there for other people, either in spiritual direction or to do with church stuff or dear friends. But you can be way more available when if God calls you to be with someone specific, then I think that you have peace in that, and that's lovely. That's great. But I am not in that situation right now. But I think it's a case of being available, but also being able to sit there and say, okay, someone's asked me to write a book. I can do that, and I can think about that, and I don't have to worry about anything else. I just put that first and go for that, get that book done, because I know that's going to impact people because God has opened that door. So maybe the kind of person I am, that works for me, but it certainly doesn't work for everybody. And I think that kind of single calling is probably fairly rare. But I do think it's true that the unmarried person can care for the things of the Lord. But that's not to decry marriage, which I also think is wonderful if you're called to that. And I think it's a lovely sacrificial thing. Perhaps I'm just too darn selfish. That's it, But it's whatever God calls you to, isn't it?
But you couldn't have done two things, I don't think. Let's say keep on your graphic designing.
True. And
also feel a call to write.
Yeah.
Burn the midnight oil, because something eventually will go. So you had to be either one or the other.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's face it, being an editor of a book, and we won't name names, but you very kindly told me before we went live on air, as they used to say, who you've had to read and edit and then send back your amendments for them to accept it or whatever. That takes more than just a quick read, I would have thought.
Yeah.
But to balance everything, you couldn't have done it.
Absolutely not. Yeah, because I wear several hats, I would say. But one of them is my day job is as an editor, a submissions editor and a book editor, doing developmental editing, stuff like this. My favourite job really is submissions, when people submit work and you're looking at it and assessing it, especially new writers. I like helping them out, and it's all Christian work. I do complete Christian works. So that's one thing, the editing, that's my day job. Then there's also the writing, which is, the work, the books and stuff that I do. That's another thing, but that's my heart, really. Hopefully I'll do that until I drop, But then also the spiritual direction and the stuff I'm involved with like this cafe, church outreach, evangelism, listening, retreat work. That's another thing, but it all blends in. And I find the peace of God in the fact that everything in my life seems to blend in, which is why I know it's from the Lord, or I would say that I feel that it is, because everything dovetails. The friends I've got, the things I do, there's a peace in it all, and it all kind of goes one into another. The retreats are writing retreats mainly, or singles retreats. So you've got that blending in with the work, but also blending in with the writing and everything else. So, it works.
But also, you're not having to balance a home and style life, looking after a husband, looking after a graphic design business. You're still doing it.
Yeah.
You're just completely free now, and you obviously know that this is what God has called you to do.
This I do, yeah.
So you have to do it until he tells you to go elsewhere.
Absolutely, because that's the thing, isn't it? I think, I mean, I've got some lovely friends who are in ministry, and they tell me, if there's peace around the right thing, there's the peace around it. If something's in my life and it doesn't feel quite right, then I've got to look at that. And I wish I knew that a few years ago when I was poorly. If you look at something and it's jangly, there's something that's not quite right, then you have to look at that and say, God, do you actually want that in my life? What is that about? Where am I not getting peace? And then I've got a whole area where there is peace. And I think that although it can be a struggle at times, especially with deadlines, I don't particularly like driving. Even now, I have some good friends who, bless them, do drive me places if I feel like I really don't want the stress of it. Even that, that there's something right about it. There's something God will bless. There's an anointing on it. There's something that's peace in that area. Seek peace and pursue it. I think that's it. Seek where the peace is, yeah.
Very quickly then, because obviously you don't like driving, but you've got to learn PDQ now for your Lamborghini next year. Otherwise, what's the point in having one? You can't just look at it. Oh, look at my Lamborghini. Don't touch it. Don't drive it. And it's something that you said. God didn't say forever and ever that you had to give it up.
Yeah.
And all too often I am meeting people who say, God told me not to do that. And it's like, so I don't do it anymore. But hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on. What else has God told you not to do?
Oh, okay.
Which you've been obedient, only for him to then bring it back, but at a greater level?
Well, this is a silly thing, really. But when I was younger, I spent a lot of time in pubs and clubs. I wasn't a drinker. I just liked the social atmosphere. I loved it. Then I came to the Lord and took up horse riding and stuff. That's a long story, actually, slightly before then. But I didn't want to go to pubs because to me they had the connotation of pre-Christian, secular. And it took me until I was in my 40s to go to a pub and be comfortable in a social atmosphere. And now, I go out with friends for a meal in a pub. We do that after Lighthouse, which is the little cafe thingy we do. And I love it. It's a social atmosphere. So I feel like God told me for a while, stay away from that atmosphere. But then eventually it's okay. So I stayed away for it for quite a considerable amount of time. And then I felt that was something that I could do and comfortably do. I know that's a silly thing, but it's something small. But I think things aren't forever. It's quite true. And it's seasons. God brings you through seasons. He told me my autumn would be more fruitful than my spring, which has turned out to be true. Mm. There are seasons in life. Everything's not forever. I thought I was going to be ill forever. I wasn't. I'm okay now. So again, you go through it. You go through that valley of the shadow. But as my mum used to say when I was poorly, all things pass.
Brilliant. To summarise all this, for those that listen today that are struggling because they believe they've heard God say, or maybe someone's told them, in which case, go and check it out, pray for it yourself first. Don't just take it from
absolutely. That's
Mr. and Mrs. Womble. Do something about it, pray about it.
Yeah.
For those that are getting that feeling that God's called them to say, no, don't do it, what would you say to them?
If you know or you believe God has said, no, don't do it, if you've got like a red traffic light, sometimes it will turn to amber and sometimes it will go to green. You don't know. But I mean, you wouldn't jump a red light. So if he's saying stop. What's the worst thing that can happen? So just stay in it. You never know if that will turn to amber or whether there'll be another turning. Maybe you've got to go off somewhere else. Yeah, just listen. Just try and keep in step with the Spirit. And if he's saying no, also remember that if he's saying no to something or shutting a door, it's for your good. And that's something that I've struggled with because I often think I know better than God. So it's not for my, okay, you don't know. Look, God, you know what you're doing, really. So trust him. The
reason I was pulling a face there was that the last person who told me about traffic lights, exactly what you just said.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. This goes back about early 1990s. How long ago was that? Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I was going out with a girl at the time, and he said, well, blah, 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 red traffic. Why don't you pray about it and see what God is saying? And I said, well, fine, I will do.
Yeah.
I was thanking God about how I was going back out with this girl again, and everything was fantastic and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And as soon as I prayed that, all of a sudden I got an amber light flashing.
Oh, okay.
I was going, oh.
Yeah.
And the chap then said, well, was that red and amber and then green? Or was it amber? And I'm going, oh, it was just amber. So it's obviously going from green to amber to red because over here, certainly in the UK, our traffic lights work where it's red and amber and then green, but then goes to amber and then to red on the way back.
Yeah.
So, that meant I had to pray even more. I then had a back injury playing football. That was bizarre. I just walked onto the football court and my back went.
Oh.
So that was me out for a week. And I knew it then went to red.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
God does know what he's doing. That's the thing.
Do you think?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Well, I'll tell him that. Sheila says she thinks you know what you're doing. I'm sure I'll be mightily chuffed. Before we find out who your Christian hero is, which I'm looking forward to hearing, I did mention at the beginning about you writing books, obviously, and one in particular really caught my eye. You wrote a book that was in tandem with Miracle on 34th Street, the black and white classic. No offense to those that like the Richard Attenborough film version. I think another one was released more recently, but the all-time black and white one featuring a very young Natalie Wood as the little girl.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What a film. Absolutely brilliant. It's up there with other classic Christmas films that we like It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
Why did you write a book? How can you tie that up with an Advent book?
I wrote it because the publisher asked me to. That was it. They actually said, can you write a book, an Advent book, which was quite amusing because I'm not really into Christmas at all. They said, can you write one on Miracle on 34th Street? Well, I'd never really seen the film, so I had to watch the film pretty quick. So that's why I wrote it. But I think it pulled out themes about trust. Is somebody who they really are? Just because, because obviously there's this Kris Kringle thing in it, isn't there? And is he real? Is he fake? And I think that was the premise of the book, but it was quite a long while ago now. And then after that, I went into writing another couple of Advent books, and I chose those films to do something on. But this one was the one they told me. Basically, they said, can you write a book on this? So, yeah, that's why.
And what did you glean from it yourself when you wrote the book?
Well, about trust, really. Trusting who Jesus actually said he was, looking at the promises of God. And it's like he said he was this. And I've been through times of doubt myself and held on to the fact that Jesus said certain things in the Gospel of John that I actually believe in, and if he said it, it must be true. And that's where I was at with that. I think it's like trusting that what he said about himself was true. So that was the biggest thing for me, yeah.
It's a Wonderful Life. You've done another book on that.
That's right, yeah. To Live Again.
What did you get? An Advent book on that, It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
How does that book work and what do you get from it yourself?
Well, again, it was about what would life be like for other people if you weren't here. I think we don't think about the effect we have on other people. I mean, there's so many themes in that one. That's really huge. But you don't realise the effect you're having on people, either for positive or negative, actually, every day when you're having interactions with them. You can bring God into a situation and pray for them. You just don't know the impact you're having on people. Because obviously in that film, is it George, he's taken away, isn't he? Or his life is changed so that he can see what life would have been like if he hadn't have been born. And I think that's an interesting premise, really.
A previous guest, only a few months ago, chose that film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to say, actually, the backstory behind it is very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Am I right in saying that I didn't actually make a lot of money at the time? They were so loath to put out the film distribution company in America, that they chose this place in July or something.
Oh, really?
Just to show it, just to get it out there. They didn't actually believe in it. Little do they realise the knock-on effect would have in years and years to come. So
yeah, powerful. It's a powerful film, yeah. I really enjoyed that one. I think of all of them. And I've got a feeling that was the one of the 3 Advent books that did the best, because I did one on Scrooge as well. Humbug and Happiness.
Yeah, what exactly is an Advent book then?
Well, it's a devotional book. It's really that what they wanted to do was pick films. This was Darton, Longman and Todd. They wanted to pick films and then use them with groups or with individuals at Christmas. So you could kind of go through it as an Advent book and sort of think through themes and what have you with a group leading up to a very busy season, obviously. It's like Lent devotionals. It's much the same sort of thing, isn't it?
What a great topic to write on, films. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Advent book on Where Eagles Dare. That's going to be good.
Well, I'd like to do a whole series on Deep Space Nine, Star Trek, so there we go.
What is it with Christian authors and space and science fiction?
Well, I don't know. I like DS9, though.
You do that and I'll do Where Eagles Dare.
Okay, that's a plan.
Well, it's been fantastic listening to you, and people in weeks, years to come will find this podcast, will go, I identify with that. And if so, just let us know, please. Contact us. It'd be great. For those that maybe want to contact you personally, Sheila, how can they do it?
I've got a website.
The website address is?
www.sheila-jacobs.co.uk.
Brilliant. And I'll put that on the blurb, as I call it, although I was politely told it's supposed to be called show notes, but blurb sounds better. Sheila, just leaves me now, the final question. Drum roll, please. Sheila Jacobs, who is your Christian hero, please?
My Christian hero is Bilquis Sheikh, who wrote I Dared to Call Him Father.
Tell us more.
She was a high-born lady from Pakistan who was a Muslim lady, and she actually became a Christian. And she lived so close to God. She had a divorce. The reason I read the book was because my parents got a divorce and I wasn't a Christian. And I saw this book and my granny made me go to a Christian shop. And I read this book, and this lady, Bilquis, had such a close walk with Jesus. I didn't know that Jesus could be your friend and you could actually really know him. Wasn't a Christian at all at that time. And she lived so close to him. He was her friend, and she was, such a godly lady. I mean, she made mistakes, but it was so interesting for me to read such a real and relevant relationship with Jesus as that woman had. So, she is absolutely my hero. Yeah.
What decades of the years did she live?
When she wrote the book, the time she was writing about, she must have been in her late 40s, 50s. So that would have been the 1960s, right. I think. So it's around about then. So 1960s, maybe up to 1970s. So it's around about that era. Very, very interesting book. I absolutely recommend it. It's a lovely book about a woman who I think had, she wasn't perfect. Again, it's this whole thing of not being perfect. We're all human. But my goodness, she knew Jesus. And I read that book, and afterwards I thought, if this is possible, I want it. So, and I got saved on the back of knowing that testimony. Yeah. So it's a powerful book. Yeah.
Whatever happened to her?
She passed away. I don't know. She was probably in the 70s or something. And but if she'd have been alive, I would have liked to have written to her and said, do you know, it's because of you that I actually started to think Jesus might actually work for me in my life. He might actually be real. I think she relocated to America. She went to live in America with her grandson. But it was a powerful story, and quite a famous one, I believe, as well. Yeah. So, yeah.
What other books did she write?
I think that was her testimony. She just wrote her testimony, or somebody helped her, obviously, because it was an autobiography, and how she became a Christian, how she found out, that Jesus was alive and that he was real, and her struggles, and to follow him. But she really lived closely to him. And I don't know if I've read some really good testimonies in the course of my work. I've read some excellent books, but that impacted me, and to the point where I thought, oh, okay, is this real? So I think it was only about a month after I read the book that I got down on my knees and said, Jesus, if it's all true, can you handle my life? Because I can't handle it anymore.
Wow. Well, if her grandson is listening.
He passed away as well, sadly.
Thank you so much, Sheila. What's going to happen to Sheila over the next few months? What are you up to?
Well, apart from the fact you think I'm going to get married. One of the things I'll be doing is finishing my spiritual direction course. Quite a lot of retreats next year planned, so there we go.
Any other books in store?
Well, I've written a book called Nun's Drift that's, I think, doing okay, actually, and people have asked, to read more of it because it's a fairly short novel, and so I'll be working on a sequel on that, and I've already started it.
Good. We'll give a quick plug about Nun's Drift then. What's it actually about?
Nun's Drift, it's a fairly short book, actually. It's a novel written from 4 different viewpoints, and it's motivational, really. It's asking questions about people's motives, and God knows the heart, and we don't know the heart. These 4 characters all live in one village, which is pretty idyllic. They all know each other, but they don't know each other's hearts. So God knows the heart.
Well, I'm looking forward to having a war with you whereby it's my book going to outsell yours, the Advent books.
Okay.
the Advent story through Where Eagles Dare versus the Advent story through Deep Space Nine.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, we'll do that.
There's only going to be one winner.
Wonderful.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sheila. It's been a sheer delight talking to you and, more importantly, listening to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Yes, God bless. Bye-bye. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. It really means a lot. Thank you. Next time on Off Grid Christianity, a returning guest and a special episode.
Whereas actually, if you look at the life of the prophets in the Old Testament, they were shocking. Jonah was forced to go and speak to people he didn't want to and ended up in the ocean in a raging storm. You have Isaiah, who was asked by God to walk around naked for 3 years as a portrayal of the poverty within Israel. You have Ezekiel, who was told to lie on his left side and his right side. So that this kind of word, a prophet, point number 1 is, for goodness sake, don't make it a title. It's not a title, it's a job. And if you are unlucky enough to be called into the prophetic space, into that calling, expect your life to get really rough. To portray the words of God, you cannot honestly speak with integrity unless you have lived what you're speaking. So point number 1 is, let's be really careful about the title of prophet, and let's also be careful about honoring people because they are so-and-so and they've been accurate in the past, therefore we should believe them. That is not the way weighing and testing works. It's a really, really big topic, but without any question, we are instructed to weigh and test.
So please join me for the special episode entitled What do the terms prophet, prophetic and prophetic ministry mean? That's with the returning guest, Peter Lorre. Until then, cheerio.